Beneath the grim skies of Paris in 1793, Louis XVI walked steadily toward the cold blade of the guillotine. In his final moment of life he offered no desperate pleas, no trembling begging for mercy, only a quiet low-spoken question: is there any news of Jean-François de Galaup de Lapérouse? Tonight let us drift with the gentle breathing of the ocean and unravel the haunting fate of this legendary navigator who vanished without a trace. Jean-François de Galaup de Lapérouse led forth France's most brilliant team of scholars, scientists, and the nation's sturdiest mighty warships commissioned to complete the unfinished voyages of Captain James Cook and fill in the blank uncharted spaces upon the world map. Yet this elite, perfectly equipped expedition faded completely into silence, lost among the scattered island chains of the vast South Pacific. Tonight's tale weaves together courage, scientific pursuit, and the tender, fragile vulnerability of human beings standing face to face with the overwhelming power of nature. If the far edge of every map is shrouded only in endless mist and uncertainty, would you still summon the courage to raise your sails and journey forth into the unknown? Jean-Lapérouse carried himself with noble gentlemanly grace amid the chaos of wartime battle, yet vanished eternally into the quiet calm of a peaceful exploratory voyage. 200 years later, explorers and researchers pieced together their final desperate struggle from broken wreckage hidden beneath the coral reefs of a remote, deserted island. This is a quiet tale that lingers softly in the heart, requiring no deliberate memorization. May its quiet depth bring you profound inner peace. On the 21st day of January 1793, the cold air of Paris hung thick and heavy as if frozen solid. The sharp blade of the guillotine glinted with icy cold light. King Louis XVI stepped forward to meet his destined end, surrounded by the loud clamor and restless murmurs of onlookers. Yet amid the chaos he spoke his final question in calm, solemn tones: is there any news of Jean-Lapérouse? Tonight, accompanied by the softly flickering glow of the hearth fire, we walk fully into the untold life of this remarkable soul. Through this tranquil tale meant only for quiet reflection, the explorer whom the French king could not forget even at the moment of execution had already been missing deep within the South Pacific. For 5 long years he departed bearing France's most advanced maritime equipment, the most carefully planned expedition route, and 200 of the nation's finest seasoned sailors, leaving behind nothing but an eternal unsolved mystery. This is a story of glorious peak and tragic fall, lofty ideal and crushing despair, and one of the most touching tragedies in the entire history of human exploration. Now slow your breath to the gentle rhythm of the rolling waves. Set sail with us and journey out into the deep blue sea that swallowed everything whole. The story unfolds at the Palace of Versailles in 1785, an era where scientific discovery and boundless dreams soared side by side. Jean-Lapérouse sat across from Louis XVI, spreading vast detailed nautical charts across the table, discussing the blank uncharted territories left behind by Captain Cook. At this time Lapérouse stood in the prime of his life, with a steady, composed demeanor, carrying the restrained dignity forged through years of grueling service upon the open ocean. He was far more than merely a brave, distinguished naval officer. He was also a profound scholar, blessed with deep humanistic insight and curious intellectual wisdom. The king granted him unprecedented royal support. 2 specially refitted mighty warships, the Compass and the Astrolabe, along with an abundant collection of scientific instruments vast enough to fill an entire museum. They carried the most precise mechanical clocks, delicate theodolites for astronomical measurement, and even dedicated cargo holds filled with diplomatic gifts and rare plant seeds. Beneath the glowing lantern light of Versailles, every detail appeared flawless and perfect, as if all the hidden secrets of the globe lay within easy reach. In August 1785, Lapérouse stood upon the deck of his flagship, watching the coastline of Brest Harbor fade slowly into the distant horizon. His heart brimmed with sacred sense of mission, firmly believing that the flag of France would carry the flame of human civilization across every distant corner of the world. Yet the quiet cracks of destiny often open silently in moments of greatest pride and confidence. In the first years of their long voyage, Lapérouse proved to the entire world why he stood as the pride of France. He crossed the vast Atlantic Ocean, navigated around the treacherous storm-swept Cape Horn, and sailed into the unpredictable, ever-changing waters of the Pacific. He measured ocean depths beneath the towering glaciers of Alaska, mapped uncharted stretches along the coast of California, and sailed across endless open sea all the way to the distant waters of the Far East. He maintained strict, disciplined command over his fleet, yet always bore gentle compassion toward every crew member, tending not only to the observation of stars and ocean currents, but also caring deeply for the physical health and well-being of every ordinary sailor. During one tense confrontation with indigenous native tribes, though his ships carried powerful artillery, he ordered strict restraint, refusing to shed innocent blood in meaningless conflict. This noble gentlemanly grace stemmed from the profound rational light within his soul representing the highest spiritual refinement of that enlightened age. Yet during an unexpected violent clash upon the shores of the Samoan Islands, Lapérouse's closest deputy alongside 12 loyal crew members met a brutal death upon the sandy beach. It was the first time he felt the helpless fragility of grand scientific exploration against the raw, untamed violence of primitive tribal life. He wrote in his personal journal, "I once believed reason could conquer the world, yet the ocean teaches me profound lessons in its own unforgiving way." This heavy blow left him quieter and more reserved than ever, yet he never halted his forward voyage, pressing steadily southward deeper into the labyrinth of unknown scattered island chains. In the early months of 1788 this grand French fleet arrived at Botany Bay, the newly established colonial settlement of Australia. There Lapérouse encountered British colonial trading vessels. The two groups exchanged heartfelt letters marking the final moment they sent word back to the civilized world. British naval officers recorded that Lapérouse remained elegant, calm and composed despite his weathered ships worn from endless months at sea. He mailed his final compiled journals and penned a letter home declaring he would return to France before the coming of June, bearing unprecedented geographical discoveries and scientific records. On the 10th day of March 1785 the two mighty warships sailed slowly out of Sydney Harbour, fading into the shimmering line where sea met sky. No one could have foreseen that faint glimpse of white billowing sails would become the last memory the civilized world would ever hold of them. Months drifted by. The promised month of June arrived, yet Lapérouse never returned. A full year passed. The French Revolution erupted across France. Louis XVI was imprisoned amid rising chaos. Amid the bloodshed and roaring turmoil, pleased to launch a search for the missing expedition were raised time and again, only to be buried beneath the violent storm of revolution. The despair lingering over their mysterious disappearance lay in the cruel truth that they possessed the finest weapons, advanced navigation tools and loyal, disciplined crew, yet found no enemy to fight. Trapped, drifting across endless vast waters, slowly exhausting their last drop of fresh water and fading away into loneliness. More than 30 years later, an Irish merchant sea captain named Dillon discovered an ornate sword in the possession of native islanders living upon Vanikoro Island. Carved clearly upon the sword hilt was Lapérouse's family heraldic emblem, and the dusty, buried memories of the lost expedition finally rose to light like jagged reefs exposed by the receding tides on that fateful night of torrential rain and raging storm. Both massive warships ran aground, crashing violently upon sharp hidden coral reefs. The astrolabe sank swiftly beneath the churning waves, while surviving crew members from the Compass endured a long, painful struggle for survival upon the desolate, lonely island. They dismantled the broken wreckage of their mighty ship, striving to construct a small seaworthy vessel capable of carrying them to safety, a nearly impossible task amid limited resources and isolation. Imagine Lapérouse and his team of learned scientists, dressed in tattered, faded formal coats, wielding heavy rough saws beneath the scorching tropical sun. The devastating fall from glorious royal expedition to primitive wilderness survival tormented their spirits far more cruelly than death itself. They clung stubbornly to their last traces of dignity upon the isolated island, building simple defensive barriers and continuing their quiet astronomical observations amid hardship. Yet in the end, raging fever, crippling thirst, hunger and growing tension among the remaining survivors slowly wore away the once elite French expedition until nothing remained. When rescuers finally reached the island, not a single soul survived of the over 200 who set sail. Only silent bronze cannons resting quietly beneath the shadowed coral reefs remained as silent memorials. Today the name JeanLapérouse stands carved upon solemn monuments across Paris, while the broken wreckage of his ship still lies resting peacefully deep beneath the ocean waves. His story answers the profound question of destiny. Even with the most perfect, carefully laid plans and unparalleled preparation, human beings can never fully conquer or control the boundless unknown. Yet the journals, nautical charts and scientific records he left behind truly filled the final blank spaces in humanity's understanding of planet Earth, paid for with the ultimate sacrifice of his own life. Louis XVI's final question before the guillotine stood as a heartfelt farewell to an age of fading idealism that was slowly crumbling away. An entire era faded into history, yet Lapérouse's relentless fascination with the unknown endures forever. Like the unceasing sea wind sweeping across the South Pacific, our quiet tale draws to a close. Tonight may the deep blue tranquility of the ocean carry you into a dream untouched by storm and unrest. There is no need to dwell on every haunting detail of their mysterious disappearance. Simply remember that fleet of white sails setting forth with noble hopes and lofty dreams, sailing bravely toward the endless sea of stars. Good night and peaceful sweet dreams.